Scott Emerson, driving Brisbane home on 4BC.
Now, we know that there are people in the community doing the wrong thing with government support measures like JobSeeker program and accessing their superannuation. But how is this affecting the Indigenous communities in some of our remote areas of Australia? Indigenous leader and Cape York Institute founder Noel Pearson says the money from these support measures are fueling a surge, and I quote, grog, chaos and gambling. I always enjoyed talking to Noel Pearson. I've spoken to him over many years, and it's a great pleasure to have him on the program today. Noel, thank you for joining 4BC Drive this afternoon.
Hey, good afternoon, Scott.
Now, I was concerned when I saw this. To be honest, sadly, I wasn't surprised. But I was concerned that someone who understands what's happening in these communities like you was saying, hey, this is a problem. Just explain to me what you're observing, what you're seeing at the moment.
Well, as you know, our communities have struggled with grog, and measures have been taken over the years to try and manage the availability of alcohol. It's a real issue for Indigenous people around the world, as it is for the wider community, but it has a particularly tragic impact in Aboriginal Australia. Grog is not a native to Australia. It's not a substance that was part of our culture. And as with Indigenous people around the world, it's had a devastating impact on our health, on our life expectancy, and on the quality of life for people living in Indigenous communities. We've tried very hard over the last 20 years to come to grips with the problem in Cape York, and the most effective way we've had has been to limit the availability in the communities through alcohol management plans, and that's the only thing that I've seen have any positive impact. Violence has decreased. Court appearances have decreased as a result of effective alcohol management. But of course, the other factor involved in grog is money. And if people who are suffering from alcohol addiction are given more free money, then the problem that you're trying to tackle here unfortunately gets worse. And in this COVID-19 situation, with the JobSeeker allowance having been very significantly increased from what New Start used to pay, it's fueling a massive problem in remote Australia.
Well, there is extra money coming in out of JobSeeker and as part of the COVID measures. Should this have been thought out differently in terms of how it went to Indigenous communities? And if people did do that differently, would there have been accusations of racism because the Aboriginal Indigenous communities were being treated differently?
That's the difficulty. But can I say that when there were lockdowns initially with COVID-19 and the restrictions were put in place, those initial months were very positive indeed, because the amount of availability of alcohol was down, the amount of money that people had for food and for their children and so on. Life in the communities during that severe lockdown period was, strangely enough, very, very good. There were very good signs around the place. You couldn't go to the pokies in places like Cooktown and Weipa and blow all your money in one afternoon. You actually had money for food for the full week or the full fortnight. Families were out camping and hunting during the school holidays with their children. Life was looking very much better during the lockdown period. Now that it's been reopened and access to the pubs and access to the takeaway grog outlets and the pokey venues has reopened, People are hungry once again. Children are going hungry once again. And the amount of grog that the binge drinking has increased. The quality of life has gone down. I mean, I think that the federal government's got to do something about this. I mean, ultimately, I have argued, and I will continue to argue that, you know, an increase in sit-down money or money that's not earned is never going to do anybody any good, whether black, white, or brindle. We need a jobs program, an entry-level job program for people where the good thing is the increase in money, but if you're going to just hand it out rather than provide a job to people where they can increase the amount of income coming into their household on the basis of work, then you're creating and compounding a social problem.
All right, Noel Pearson, always good to speak to you about this. We'll have to come back to this issue again, but thank you for joining 4BC Drive this afternoon. That was the founder of Cape York Partnership and Indigenous leader Noel Pearson. Always makes good sense, but also sadly will tell us as it is, and it's sad to hear what's happening there. He's raised the point about the JobSeeker program potentially causing problems with excess money, extra money there. What do you think what Noel Pearson had to say? If you changed the system, if you treated these Indigenous communities differently in terms of JobSeeker because of the issues raised by Noel Pearson there, would you get the accusation of being racist in terms of the policies? Let me know what you think. 131873.